Um, Everyone, thanks again for popping into our second Fireside chat. Our guest for tonight is Kevin Powell, a senior systems designer at Airship Syndicate. Um, KP's coming to us with, I want to say, like 12 years industry experience now.
Yeah. It'll be 13 next month.
13? That's all.
Yeah.
Congratulations, dude. Yeah.
Thanks.
Um, from High Res Studios, working on Tribes Ascend and Smite. And let's see what. Oh yeah, Global Agenda, Tribes, Smite.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I know this. You were after that. You went to Gearbox for Borderlands 3, and
Yeah. And
then
Battleborn.
and Battleborn. Okay. Oh, my man got
Yeah. Can't
titles.
forget about Battleborn. But
I'm
yeah, we got
sorry.
slumped out by Overwatch, but it's okay. It was a fun game to work on.
Yeah, I mean that was just a matter of like timing
Yeah.
and like really bad timing than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. It's
Y'all did
unfortunate.
some cool work though. Yeah, the little bit I get to play of it was nice. And then finally over to Airship Syndicate.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, that's where I'm at now. So
nice. So with I guess yeah. So our starting question: what amongst all of your other um, industry pursuits, you're also pretty well known in like your Facebook game day circles for your famous food polls. Anything you'd like to say?
Oh man, the food polls. Yeah, we honestly, I was thinking about that the other day. But yeah, for those who don't know, I used to do this thing every Friday on Facebook. I used to do a food poll when Facebook allowed polls because they unfortunately took that feature away. Like right before the pandemic, which would have been I feel like a perfect time to have some food polls. But yeah, every Friday I used to throw this food poll it used to get pretty heated. Like I used to always try and pick like controversial foods to like put up there. So let me see. Actually, so quick. Let me see. What were some of the good ones? I remember doing like wings, like sauce versus dry rub. I remember doing like flats versus drums. I remember doing a whole like fry challenge where it was like waffle fries, all that.
Well, I think
Yeah, it
my
was just a
personal
fun time.
favorite. My personal favorite was In and Out versus Five Guys because there were some
Oh, that
arguments.
was
There were some popping off.
yeah. Especially
Like
being in Texas.
yeah, you were in Texas at the time, and like my
Yeah,
personal favorite was I don't remember what you voted, but I remember your brother voted the opposite, and then you were just
yeah.
like, "Yo, we family. Like, what are you doing?" Like,
Yeah, because he voted in and out, and I was like, I gotta go Five Guys. And yeah, and you know, it's funny just because like it just generates so much like engagement. Like we were in the comments, like just talking trash, all that stuff. It was just a real fun time. Oh, we already got some comments in the
we
chat.
popping off
In and
that
out
too.
all day. Oh my god.
Oh man. Oh
Yeah.
no. Or I y'all save that for
But
oh
see,
no.
yeah.
Oh. Oh, we're getting spicy at 9:06. Okay,
But see,
Chase.
it's just like even just that like little bit, right? Like people just start talking, and that was like the fun part about it because like just a bunch of people just interacting on Facebook. It wasn't like anything political or controversial as far as like something that you actually have to worry about, and about food, and so it was just fun.
Well, fun for some
Yeah,
people. Some people have some real serious opinions.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I see a
and
cookout over here. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I guess since the specialty is about like specialties within game design, and you've had quite a few roles on quite a few different projects. Overall, how many different like roles have you had like just on a design team in your career so far?
It's been a lot. Uh, yeah, I guess I can kind of go through my history because it's like I feel like I've gotten to touch a bunch of different parts of design, and
Yeah.
so yeah, especially coming into high res. I was pretty much I came in as a level designer, so that was my first job in the industry. Level, and throughout college, I pretty much studied level design and environment art. So I was also in Maya and 3ds, building 3D assets and everything, building environment. So I felt like those kind of went hand in hand. So it kind of worked out perfectly because when I kind of transitioned off of Global Agenda, we had started Tribes Ascend. And so I was doing level design on that. But then I actually got to do some 3D art for Tribes and Global Agenda afterward because there were only 2 or 3 level designer Tribes. It was, me, Kate Pitstick, and Scott Z. And yeah, it was pretty wild, like being able to fill that role and then afterward kind of go back and use this other skill to still help make assets for the game. So it was really cool doing that. But then I eventually transitioned to Smite. That was really cool because I was a level designer as well on that. But then I went to character design, god design, on Smite. So that was really interesting. Kind of switching from like building the environment to building characters that are moving around and doing things within the. Then let's see. From then I kind of bounced around. So it was like within character design. Uh, uh, then I got the Gearbox, still did character design. And then I jumped into systems design because on Borderlands 3, they actually already had people in mind to design out those characters. And so I ended up joining the systems team once I got on Borderlands. And that kind of changed my trajectory for design uh, as a whole. I kind of started to learn more about systems as a whole and building kind of tools for designers, stuff like that. And really, I've been in systems ever since that. But really, I kind of touch a lot of things within like combat design, so it's really like balance, uh, game feel, a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it's been a pretty interesting journey.
Anything you haven't touched yet? Like I didn't hear narrative, and I was like, I think that's the
Yeah,
only thing
yeah.
Kev's done.
Yeah, so I haven't done narrative design or like mission design. And then what else? Yeah, I think that's it. Um, yeah, I haven't touched anything with like narrative design, which is interesting because it's like I've been so close to it, but I've never jumped in narrative, and then also like enemy enemy design AI. So I haven't done a whole lot of stuff with enemy design, even though I've been on the other side of that of combat with like player like combat design. So uh, yeah, that's probably something I would like to maybe touch at some point, especially with everything else that I've done. Like I think it's pretty cool to design out enemies at some point.
With Wayfinder, you just pop into Joe Mad's office.
It's actually pretty cool. We have like a super open like floor plan. Um, yeah, like Joe and Ryan and all them, like all of the higher ups, they sit like right next to everyone else. It's pretty cool. Like they're actually like putting in work, just like the rest of us. So it's pretty cool. Airship is a pretty dope place. I can't lie.
From you and like a few other people that like that was the thing they were like really like jazzed about when they got to Airship. They were like, "Yo, like he's just here, like she's just like just doing art, like he's here with like in the trenches with everyone else." Whereas they just sort of had this expectation when they first got there that like Joe Maduro, I mean, obviously he's the CEO, so they're like, there's this expectation that he's going to be like behind the scenes at like the business level.
I mean, he is to a certain extent, but like he also is just like there. And he'll walk over to people's desks. Like we have conversations. A lot of the time, like we're just all kind of amongst each other in the office. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of the higher ups are former devs. And I say former devs, but I mean they're still doing work today, like actually the editor doing stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So across all of the things that you've, all those different areas which you touched, like combat design, systems level, would you say there's any like consistent skills or like knowledge that you've been like this is like you've kept coming back to that?
um, I can't say there's like a particular skill or anything, but what I will say is that like understanding the genre of game that you're building is like paramount to anything else. Regardless of like what team you're on or what discipline you're in. I think that understanding the genre that you're building is huge. Because just like in film, there's genres, right? And there's certain tropes that go along with that genre. And understanding that and being able to take that and maybe subvert what your audience expectation of that is like huge. And I kind of always go back to that. Whenever I'm working on a game, I want to make sure I understand uh, all of the things that make this game fit within this genre, and how can you make it different, if that's the aim, right? But yeah, I think that really just understanding the genre that you're working within just helps out a lot with asset creation, everything. Whatever you're building, it's like you can kind of look back at the things that have been done before, and pull from them. And I think that's a pretty strong skill to have, to be able to take that and harness it in a way where you take those ideas and kind of take them and run with it. So I think that is probably the most valuable thing I'd say for any dev, to really, yeah, take a step back and think about the game that you're building and the genre that it falls in, and like what you're trying to with the game you're. So yeah, I don't know if that really answered the question, but
It
yeah,
does.
that's
It's like there was like the one core thing is just like really knowing the genre, like knowing the game, and like always keeping those like core get like design pillars in mind, like with everything you do.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. So, I guess as a follow up to that, would you think there's anything that, like, as your career moved on, you started using like this tool or like this knowledge or tool or skill like less? Like, I remember you saying when you got into systems, it kind of changed your trajectory on your career. So, do you think that like
Yeah.
when you started pivoting towards systems, is there certain things that you sort of like left behind or you're still interested in, but it's like it's not a thing that you regularly like deal with anymore?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I I kind of I'm not as precious about my own design anymore. I remember, yeah, especially early on, I used to be real like particular about like, oh, this is my design. I want to see it in the game. This is my vision, or envisioned it, and that is never the like it's never the case. And so the more you can kind of take a step back from being like, oh, this is something that I absolutely have to get into the game, and understanding that maybe that vision isn't complete, and you need more feedback, more data to make that complete and make something that feels good for not just you but for target audience. Um, I think that allows you to make better designs. And so, yeah, from early on, I think I was more beholden about my designs and like my intention of like what I wanted to get in the game. as opposed to like what's good for the game and what's good for players. And I think as time has gone on, especially with, working in games of service, I think that, yeah, just learning what can help your systems or your designs feel better for a more, I guess, a larger audience. And yeah, it's just kind of understanding those like design principles and kind of taking that and putting it in a way where players can digest it and understand it better. And so taking your intention as a designer and being able to kind of extrapolate it to a way that's like easily digestible, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything particular at Gearbox that like led to that shift, or was it just over time?
Yeah, I think so. Because working at Gearbox, like going from high res to Gearbox, because high res is definitely like a more indie studio, right?
Yeah.
In Gearbox, having worked on Borderlands, they did Borderlands 1 and 2, and I was like, oh, I really want to work on the next. And being able to go get into this studio and work on this like AAA game where you're working on a team where it's like not just like 100 or 200 of you, it's like 1,000. And so it's like, okay, having to shift because it's like, when you're working at an indie developer, you have a lot more agency over, your designs, all of that stuff. But when you're working on a large game, that kind of goes out the window. It's like you have to, there's a formula. There's a reason why this game did really well, and there's a reason why there's so many people. But you have to understand like production game development is very different depending on if you're working in AAA and indie. And so yeah, I think that like was the big kind of paradigm shift in my head was like, oh, I really need to make sure that this works for a lot of people. And I think I didn't understand that until I got to a studio where we were working on something that we had all of this data, we had like so much more feedback, all of that stuff. It was really interesting shit.
Okay, what it's like you were like, well, I mean, I know high res is bigger now than like it was when you left, but it was like there was a lot more sort of like gut feeling about what you wanted, like let's say Tribes or Smite to be. Whereas opposed to like on Borderlands 3, it's like there's like 12 million people who expect a certain thing.
Yeah, and it's like of course, like it's like you want to inject your own like flavor into anything you work on, and I mean that's bound to happen. Like how you build things, all of that stuff. But yeah, it was just a really interesting shift from like, oh, we're working on this game where like I know most of the people on the team. Like I know them by first name. Then you shift to a team where it's like, okay, I work within 15 or 20 people, but there's hundreds of people. It's really hard to kind of keep track of that, and then also have those interpersonal relationships, all of that stuff. I feel like that all kind of feeds into development as far as like communication goes, production, all of that stuff. But yeah, it was just a really big shift, I think, going from an indie title that really didn't have much financial backing until we got a oh god, I'm having a brain fart. Why can't I think of the word? Sorry.
Talking about Smite or Tribes?
Smite.
Okay.
Oh God. Sorry, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of right now.
Was it like those first big tournaments?
No. Oh God. What's the word I'm thinking of? larger developer supports a smaller developer. Oh God, terrible. Anyway, yeah, going from having that much support, having little support to having a very big amount of support, especially through advertising, development, all of that stuff. So it just was a really interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So actually, one thing I was definitely curious to ask you. So knowing like your whole career, like from high res, all the things you did there, to what did I say? Yeah, to then your time at Gearbox and then over to Airship Syndicate. If you could do your career over, do you think there are any? Obviously, knowing everything that you know now, are there any like different paths that you'd want to take? Would you want to like spend like maybe take like a longer detour or like try something that you didn't ever get to do or maybe try and get to systems faster?
Yeah. Honestly, I think that getting the systems design, I feel like opened up uh just opened a lot of stuff up for me, just with like my thinking around building things within the editor. Um and so yeah, I feel like maybe if I got the systems sooner, that would have been cool. But honestly, I feel like all of my like jumps to different positions have been kind of integral to like where I'm at now. And so I feel like had I not gone that path, I don't know where I'd be right now. So yeah, I say honestly, I think it was necessary to kind of go through the uh, different to, where I'm at.
Like it sounds like it would have been cool, but like you feel like you wouldn't have as like a like full grasp of like what needs to be done for design if you had tried to just like
Yeah,
shortcut your way to systems.
right. Because I feel like learning kind of all of these different parts of the pipeline, I feel like is really essential for a systems designer because it's like uh, I'm trying to think about things ahead of time. So it's like, all right, when we're building out systems, uh, what does that entail? What do we want to hook these systems into? What do we want the player to? How do we want the player to engage? Uh, thinking about that stuff ahead of time, it's done wonders for like helping me build out systems in a way that can be scalable. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not been in these other positions.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of surprised because I was like wondering, is he gonna say he would have wanted to just drop like being an artist at high res? I wonder.
No, because I feel like that honestly, like I wouldn't trade that for anything. Because being a part of the like art pipeline, I feel like that gave me a huge insight into uh, just also well first like how much time it takes to like build something, and then also working with different styles, all of that stuff. And so having an understanding of like, all right, well, if I'm going to request something as a designer, understanding how much time goes into it and how many other people you're going to affect in the pipeline, I think it's huge. So knowing like if you request an ability that's gonna require, effects and sound and additional animations and stuff like that, that's gonna throw off your schedule. Um, if you can reuse some stuff, cool, but like just kind of thinking about it in that way, knowing that like, okay, well, we can reuse certain things here and there. Um, if I'm gonna request something, I know it's gonna take this long or it's going to require this artist to have to be taking off of something else, and so understanding that I think helps with uh, just everything really, your expectations as a designer and like what you can get implemented, um, your expectations of the other teams and like what kind of content they can deliver for you to be able to look up, all of that stuff. And so yeah, but like that's the one thing that I feel like yeah, I wouldn't drop from my career if I had to, because that helped me understand like so many other parts of production that I feel like I might not have had if I didn't do that.
Like it helps to appreciate the actual like what your I mean, even though you're not an artist anymore, it's like what your coworkers have to do. And it's like it gives you a better
Yeah.
understanding of the actual like process of like this is what I'm gonna need, like this is what my coworkers have to do. When I say I'm
Mhm.
just gonna build a new level, like this is how it actually affects people.
Right. Yeah, and then also on top of that, like as a systems designer, it helps out a lot, like with being able to hook up stuff. Because like I've been able to kind of jump in and get my hands dirty with a lot more than I feel like I would have been able to had I not had that experience. So being able to go in and be like, okay, well, these materials, like I know we need a material instance if we want something to, glow or something like that. We can take these parameters and scale them, over time to like make something happen. And I could set that up only because I know how it's hooked up on the other, and then we can hook that into gameplay. So that also allows us to do really cool shit. And so I think that like all of these like skills kind of add up into your like design tool in a way.
You're just jumping ahead to the other questions before I even get to them. I was like, oh, he did that already. Oh, he talked about that already too.
Oh damn.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just like, man, he knows what I want to talk about next. So since you mentioned like design and toolkit, if you had to sort of like summarize yourself, like let's say if someone asked you to be like, yo, how would you sort of like pitch yourself now as a designer?
Mhm.
Almost as if you were applying for a job.
Oh, well then I don't know. I guess I would consider myself like a combat specialist in a way, just because like throughout my career I've worked on pretty much combat consistently. Because like I like taking a step back, like with the initial level design stuff, I was still like building levels around combat. Like I was setting up combat on the other side, at least setting up encounters. I know I
Yeah,
said I
like
didn't do AI, but now that I'm thinking about it, I did. But it wasn't in the way that AI is implemented these days, and so it's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, setting up encounters and stuff as a level designer. We set up combat stuff like that.
yeah.
Um,
I remember you explaining to me way
yeah,
back when I was an intern, like about like how you were looking at like the skiing routes of like where you expected like encounters to happen.
yeah. Damn, I feel old, man. Like, how did I forget that? But yeah, no, I feel like yeah, combat has really kind of been something that been centered around my career this whole time. Especially with like global agenda, setting up levels, and then uh, going with tribes, also setting up levels, but with thoughts about different skiing routes, and it was more of a capture the flag scenario with that. So going from that to Smite with designing out the initial. I designed the first map for Smite, and yeah, they just had the 10-year anniversary and all that stuff for that thing. And they re-released the original map. That was I designed out the original map for
Yo,
Smite. Yeah, so being able to do that, but then going over to God design and working on characters, and so it's like, yeah, I've been around combat a lot. So yeah, at the very least, I think I would say be a combat specialist if I was asked, what my design sort of specialty was.
well. We do have time to get into your current role as a combat specialist at Airship Syndicate. And thankfully, originally I was just gonna like cap this because I was like, like I wasn't trying to have you break any NDAs, but we've seen a little bit of Wayfinder at PAX East now, so you're officially free to talk about a bit more.
Yeah,
Obviously, like still like respect the NDA, but like.
Oh yeah. It's like I've had media training. I know not to break that NDA, and we put out a lot of content already. So yeah, we put out some gameplay, all that stuff. Yeah, it's been really cool working on Wayfinder. From the very beginning, we were trying to build something that was just really cool. That honestly, that's what I kind of set out to do every time. Is just to work on cool stuff. And so, yeah, when I got over to Airship, they told me they were working on this game that now all know Finder. And yeah, I came on as a systems designer and basically helped with the initial sort of combat loop. And so, diving in and figuring out, combos, weapon class, all that stuff. It was really cool. And to see, what it's kind of turned into now is, yeah, it's kind of mind blowing because I feel like um, this is like the game that I've been able to, I feel like, have a pretty big impact on, especially within the combat. And so you'll notice like with certain things, like you'll notice there's a lot of like meter building and stuff. There's a huge like fighting game influence with a lot of combat within Fine. Especially, when we're sitting in a room, I'm sitting in a room with like Joe Mad and some of the other designers, and we're trying to figure out character design, stuff like that, and all this like anime and fighting game stuff like that. And I'm just like, this is kind of what I dreamed of like working. And so to see it kind of out in the wild is yeah, pretty cool.
Is there anything like particular? Obviously, I know you might have to like hold yourself back because you don't know you might have like a perfect idea of like what's been shown and what's not been shown. But to the best of your knowledge, is there anything that you're like, this is like one of my like favorite things of what we've shown so far?
I think there's a lot of stuff, but I think that the most recent like, oh, you linked it, the official extended like gameplay trailer. So Senja, one of the characters in there, she's like a gladiator. She does this whole thing, kind of taunts enemies and stuff, and I remember just like sitting in the room and coming up with the idea for this character with everyone. It was just really cool, kind of seeing that come to light because we were like, oh, maybe she has like PTSD. She seems like still in the arena, and so whenever she like taunts and stuff, she's like building meter. And, like you can hear the crowd like cheering and stuff like that, and kind of seeing that actually come to fruition. I don't know, it's a really cool feeling, especially in on the project at that point and helping with the design of that character. I don't know, something about it, and seeing people play her and enjoy her and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite part so far. There's some other stuff that I worked on that I can't wait for people to see, but I can't talk about it.
That's what I was like. I know it's hard to keep track of like what has been publicly shown and what hasn't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I've
I
been trying
think.
To follow all of our posts. So.
Oh, so you know the exact moment when you can start talking about something?
Yeah. I mean, you got to. You don't want to break NDA.
Oh man, I know Chuck Huber did that. This voice actor for Android 17, like he was at some anime convention,
man.
yeah, and then he for when Dragon Ball Fighters was like really early in, and he just told some person like, "Yeah, man, I just finished recording my lines for Android 2017. I'm so excited." And then the guy was like, "I don't think the androids have been announced yet, like." In combo or as Android 17 as a solo, and he had already like said, and then he was like, "Oh,
He's like, oops. Yep.
And Android 17 was like an Android 17 like solo was a DLC character, so it was like, ooh, you dropped a big bomb there, bro.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think that's all the questions I had. So let's open up the floor for Q&A. Scrolling through now. Let's see. I mean, it sounds like Chase has something he wants to say about Five Guys. Like it sounds like he was holding it in, but speak your truth, Chase. All right. Oh, here comes Bo. Oh, what we getting? The anticipation's killing me. Oh, Bo and Tim are typing. Oh, everyone's up. Several people are typing. Oh
go.
boy, there we go. Someone pop off. Food Wars. Oh. All right. Oh yeah, that is also an option. Yeah, you can raise your hand and speak too.
Oh yeah.
It's Knox's life. So I guess while we're waiting, is there any other tidbit that has obviously been shown already in Wayfinder that you're like, yo, this is really cool. I can't wait for people to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I want people to really like get into the systems of how like the player progression comes about, and then also playing around with the different weapons because I think it's really cool. I know there's a lot of people that are really concerned about like since this is like a third person action. I know a lot of people have been throwing around the MMO title for our game, but it's like a MMO light, more like it. I guess more in the vein of like a Destiny than like a WoW. But yeah. Oh, all right. So publisher was the word I was thinking of earlier, and I couldn't think of it.
I wasn't sure. I don't think he means publisher.
Publisher, yeah. I had a brain fart, but yeah.
Okay.
Digital Extremes is our publisher, and they did Warframe.
Yeah.
That game has been pretty highly regarded, especially for being play, game service. So yeah, it's I just can't wait for people to kind of get in and explore like all of the systems that we have set up for player progression and also weapon progression, dungeon crawling. I think the imbuement system is really cool. I don't think we've really touched on it a whole lot, but being able to run dungeons that are procedurally generated, but then also modify them with imbuement to the extent of kind of like Diablo Apex, where it's like, okay, well, if you imbue this instance with shadow, then all the enemies will explode after they die, stuff like that. Having special combinations because you can combine up to 3 Inhumans. So yeah, I think that that's something that I don't think a lot of people have really looked into that we've kind of touched on. But yeah, I'm really excited to see people mess what interesting combination they can cook up.
So let me actually regret to these questions and not just keep talking about what I want to talk about. So for Bo, how would you say that your catalog of projects has shaped your identity when new folks in the field meet you? Like, do you think your like background as like a combat specialist like occurs to them?
I don't think so. Like it's been really interesting, especially over the past like couple years. When I talk to people and mention like all of the games that I worked on, and they're like, "Oh shit, like what you worked on this and that," and yeah, I don't know. It's been really interesting because like even for me, I kind of get lost in the project currently on, but like kind of taking a step back and all of the games I worked on. It's been really cool, having, Global Agenda, Smite, Tribes, Battleborn, Borderlands 3, and then now Wayfinder on my resume. And I think all of those games, like I've kind of taken something from each project that I've been on and, taken it to the next. So, if you look at the games that I worked on and look at the game that I'm on currently, probably see some similarities in some of the designs or something like that. You could probably see something that like I don't know what my designer calling card would be, but yeah, you could probably see some similarities in the character designs, stuff like that. It's really
Okay. Do you feel like because there's some like it's not like they're vastly different projects from one to the next. It's like you've been able to sort of take something you've learned from even as early as Global Agenda and apply it to like now at like Wayfinder.
yeah. Like I feel like they are different projects, but I feel like some of the elements, especially like combat elements, translate into different projects, different genres. And so being able to kind of take, what I learned from, working on Borderlands 3 with like the whole like just thought system and how they do their loot and all that stuff. And then also taking a look at what we did on Battleborn with like the characters and their helixes and how they modify their, abilities throughout a match. Taking all of those things, kind of working um, something that's new and using lessons learned from those projects also to like help guide my decision process in current project. So like taking a look at like what some of the upgrades might for some of the wayfinders and their abilities, something like I would kind of go back and take a look at like what we did for Battleborn, what happened in Borderlands 3, with like being able to make different choices for ability, how that changes the flow of combat or how that changes the balance. I think it's super important to take notes from all of these projects, especially the good things, right? And take those with you, use those to make something cooler in the future.
So next question from Tim. As a systems designer, are you more of a spreadsheets guy or an in-engine guy?
Oh, I'm definitely more of an in-engine guy. I love getting my hands dirty. I like prototyping. I like building. I like building tools for other designers. Yeah, I'm definitely more of an in-engine guy. I have done the spreadsheet stuff. I don't find it boring. I just think that I find it way more fun to be in the editor and be able to prototype out something. Especially like if someone has an idea, like this happens a lot, honestly, at Airship, is like somebody will post in Slack and they'll be like, "Oh man, I wish that we could do this. We have a whole feedback channel." And they'll be like, "Oh, it'd be really cool if this ability did this," or just random feedback. We can take that and do whatever we want to it or with it. And so it's really cool. Sometimes there will be some idea that'll come out of that feedback. And we'll take that and prototype it out, see how it feels. And
I was about to ask you, like,
more often than not.
I was about to ask you, is like, do you just take that? I'll say that feedback when you get, do you just like the idea that you could just jump in and just like, I'm gonna just try prototyping this?
Yeah, 100%. So it's just like a lot of really cool things that are currently in the game now have been spawned from kind of feedback from playtests and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, it would be really cool if we did this. I know that there's also the potential for feature creep with that, but a lot of these things are things that like we're so excited to build. We do it in our free time. And so if it's something that we want to see in the game and like make it, and that's the really cool thing too, is having the ability to just build something in the engine is pretty huge because you can just kind of see if something is fun or feels good or not. So yeah, I'm definitely way more of an engine guy than spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet life.
I respect spreadsheets though. Like I had to, especially at the beginning of this project, we were trying to figure out how to balance everything amongst different characters. We have, all of these generated dungeons. We have every character being able to, equip different weapons. How do you balance all of that? You have to have some way of taking all of these things, putting them into buckets and extrapolating that out. So that's kind of what we did. We kind of created a budget for power with that, and that's kind of how we balance stuff. But yeah, spreadsheets I respect, but I love the engine work.
As a technical designer, Sony said about it that he is another one of the he is not about the spreadsheets either.
It's like I don't know. It's just when I open the spreadsheet and everything, it's like having to like put in all these formulas, all that stuff. I would love if you could have blueprint for spreadsheet. Actually, you know what? I just said that, but there's this thing. Hold on, I gotta find machinations.io is pretty much that. I've been messing around with that lately, but yeah, I'm still not sure if it's super useful, but like there's some cool stuff in there. Chat real quick.
Just looking for it myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Predict game economics.
I've been messing around with it, but yeah, it seems like something that could be really interesting for game dev.
You're just gonna go and I'll just go in like I'll just go and see. I'll just go do programming. I can do the program and design a hybrid. I am not about. Nope, it's not for me.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of cool. Like it's like you can kind of visualize the Excel spreadsheet. You can visualize these like game loops and stuff like that. Just with like kind of the little bit I've been messing around with it, like it seems like there could be some potential there, but I don't know. I still need to evaluate. But yeah. If Excel was like this, like machinations, I feel like I would probably be a little more into.
Oh, we got another good question from Bo. All right, so another good question from Bo. What kind of projects would you hope junior designers working with you would be able to show in their portfolios?
Is that for like I guess Wayfinder in particular, or like?
Hopefully, but yeah. Oh, he said yes.
Okay. So for Wayfinder in particular, and it also depends on like what kind of design we're trying to do. I would say for combat designer, I would just like to see either from the player side or the AI side, what you could build with that. If you build if you have a blackboard with like an AI tree, um, and you have just like some simple AI behavior, I feel like that's enough, especially for a junior designer, to at least get your foot in the door, or at least be able to get a test or something. I would want to see, some proficiency in either being able to build out some sort of like AI trait, or to be able to build out some kind of abilities or functionality on the player side. If that's even like camera movement, because that's another thing. Sorry, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, but like game feel and it is another section of, I feel like, combat design that people don't focus on. And that's, controller rumble. That's dead zone. That's stickiness for when you're like panning over enemies and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people don't think about that. And so I would like to see if you were applying for like a systems design position, I would like to yeah, stuff like that, where it's like you understand at least how to manipulate, certain things that come with game feel. So being able to, manipulate the player camera, um, controller rumble, stuff like that. Just controls, being able to just understanding how to set up certain things for the player, I think huge. And it's not like you have to know everything, but just showing a general interest in understanding the engine to a certain extent, I feel like would be huge for a junior designer if they were applying.
Oh, next question from CJ. Well, I guess we'll start with his not a question. I'd rather eat a plain Park burger from Park Barbecue than go to In-N-Out. Their fries lack not only flavor but crisp. May as well order from McDonald's. Oh boy. Oh man. So to his question for you, since you've worked in like a bunch of different genres from games, oh no, here come more people jumping in. So as you've worked in many different genres of games, how do you keep yourself versed in other types of games rather than specializing too far in one? Do you feel like there's room to take and pick, or do you feel like it's better to just like keep those genres and tropes separated from one another?
I think the more you can blend stuff together, the better. But then again, that's me and my personal opinion. I think that, especially as a systems designer, I try to play or watch people play as many games as possible. But like I play a bunch of different games. Even though I'm working on a game that's like uh, third person action combat, I play all kinds of games. I think I played a lot of Rocket League a couple
I
of years
remember.
ago,
Yeah.
and I'm into fighting games, racers, really playing anything. Also, like card games. I try to just play a lot of different stuff because I feel like there's a lot of things that like you can kind of, I don't think steal is the right word, but like borrow from different genres to make really interesting design. And I think the more that we try and understand these like design principles, and try and break them down and experiment with other genres, I think we end up getting really cool stuff. And so, yeah, for me, I just try and, make sure I'm looking at like a little bit of everything. Um, I'll play whatever. I was playing a game like Potionomics, which is like kind of, it's like a you're it's almost like a dating sim, but you're like building potions and stuff like that. You're managing like a shop. Like there's just all kinds of stuff out there. It's like the way that they're building games. I think that the more you just kind of expose yourself to what's out there in the industry, the better off you'll be. But yeah, like I said, that's my opinion. I think you could also specialize in also really uh, come across some really cool stuff if you really want to go that route. But I think for me, kind of exploring all of these different genres, figuring out like what works for them and how can I take that, translate it into a different genre in a way that people might not expect, I think is really interesting. And those are the kind of like problems that like I feel like keeps me motivated and in game dev, honestly, to like solve these really interesting problems that I guess I create for myself. That's how I don't get burned out.
You're not burned out, bro. So
Oh
I
wait,
know
you
we're.
were cut off at for the first second.
I said I'm glad that you're not burned out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know we're coming up on time, so we're going to ask you this one last question. Since you worked on multiple game, oh yeah, but with another stinger. Since you worked on multiple games as a service now, do you think there's any design ideas or principles that need to be prioritized there?
um, yes. I think that games as a service. I think that a lot of those games don't focus on community enough. Um, I think that yeah, a lot of these games focus on monetization, and you kind of see what happens there. I think that focusing on community is kind of tried and true. If you look at the games that are still doing well, that came out, you know, 5, 6, maybe even a decade ago, I think the one common thread among all of them is they've built a really good community around that game. And they find different ways to do that, and especially with like streamers and all that stuff. There's a lot of ways to do that, but I think that the main thing is building a positive community that eats in on itself is like paramount for a game as a service. And if you're not focusing on that, then you're I feel like you're kind of destined to die at some point, because if you don't build a community of people that care about your game, then who's going to be there for you when you're putting out more content. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Has been time. I'm just gonna say as a wrap up, it's great to see that you're doing well. It is at some point, I'm just gonna come out to Austin and come see you. I got a few people I know out there. Yeah, there's a few people I gotta come see in Austin. Thanks so much for stopping by. It's great to hear from you. And yeah, take care. I guess after this, I'll say there'll be a few of us just hanging out like general chat and chill. But other than that, yeah, this is it for our fireside chat.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll come hang out in the chat and show.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, y'all. Peace.